Hey, good morning, everybody. We got the air conditioning running and it might pop on at times, so the mics are a little bit louder. If you can't hear us, please just kind of remind us to talk into the mics because it does get a bit noisy. But before we call roll, we'll start with an invocation and pledge. Roger, if you could.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we praise you as a God of love and a God of peace. Lord, we pray for us today that we'd be a people of peace, not just because we have all the obstacles removed in our life, but that we be transformed inwardly, be people of peace amidst things that are unpleasant and challenging. And Lord, help us be welcoming to those that make us uncomfortable, and to love as you have loved us. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, we're going to initially open as the Board of Equalization today. We have a report to receive from the assessor. Amanda, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Richardson.
Here.
Commissioner
Here.
Pettit. Commissioner Thayer.
Here. All righty, so just one item we have today. Susan, you had a report on property values to present? This meets a statutory requirement to report to us before, that was it the 10th of the month or the 15th, I believe. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Susan Murphy, Assessor. I'm here today to report to the County Board of Equalization the preliminary valuations for 2019. Both the actual and assessed value has been listed, and I just want to clarify to you that the assessed value is an assessment percentage that is applied according to the classification of the property. Residential property was previously assessed at a rate of 7.2 for 2017 and 18, and for 2019 and 20, the new residential rate is 7.15, while most other property is assessed at 29%. The exceptions are producing mines and producing oil and gas leasehold. Okay, the first item listed is the increase in total actual value of all taxable property. So the valuation for the taxable property includes changes for all real property, residential and commercial, possessory interest, state assessed, personal property, natural resources, and oil and gas. It does not include exempt property totals. So the increase of total taxable property in 2019 is $791,969,997. The total increase for 2019 assessed value is $60,156,560. Okay, the second item of valuation is the state assessed. The state assessed final notice of value is due on August 1, so these are preliminary figures for state assessed. The state assessed actual value increase is $15,134,638. The state assessed taxable value difference is $4,389,000. And most of the increase is due to the Rush. We talked about this, the Rush Creek Wind Farm. The next item is personal property, and I do want to clarify that on the report that I provided the County Board of Equalization to post said decrease in total personal property, whereas the report that you have in your hand says increase.
Raised, okay.
So lawsuit, and we had one side satisfied. And I just wanted to clarify on the satisfied part, because the satisfied means that they initially provided us with an appeal, and then they decided after looking at all of the information we provided to them that they withdrew their appeal. So it's essentially a withdrawal.
Okay.
We got to talk to a lot of people during the appeals process. We were very happy to have the influx of people walk through our door and help educate them, help them in understanding how their valuations are calculated and where they came from, just to explain everything to them. So I wanted to go through some statistics. The amount of notice of valuations that were mailed were 13,682. 877 appeals, that's just almost 6%. We received 17 that were emailed, 1 fax, 300 mailed, 311 online, and 248 in person. I don't believe that 248 in person includes others that walked through our door that we spoke with and helped them understand, talk with them, take them through the process. The amount of net attendance is a -8%. So I'd like to have the assessor's office staff stand up for one moment, if you could. I'm embarrassed, you know. Okay. Without these individuals, we could not have accomplished the work that has been completed over the past 3 months. I cannot tell you how much time and effort, determination, and to get the work done and completed, these people have truly worked together as a team. And without one of them, if one of them were missing, we couldn't have done our jobs, because we have inspections, we have communication, we have walkthrough, we have people behind the scenes doing the work, answering the phones. And even through the appeals process, we still had to do all the other work, which entails a lot, you guys. So they all have a servant's heart, and this staff has emulated professionalism, not only through the appeal process, but at all times. They are motivated by helping the taxpayer and any person that comes through the door to better understand the valuation process or any other processes that take place in our office. They truly embrace principles and strong leadership, and they have an attitude of humility. I am truly thankful for all of you. Any questions? I'm going to send them all back.
Yeah.
They are busy, but anything else?
Not a question, just a comment. And again, for those that are leaving, thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, I know that the put a lot of effort, and IT, I don't believe, was here today, but to get that online appeal process online so folks could use it. I'm glad it was used, because I know just from discussions
Yes,
with you.
It worked out very well. I
Yeah.
think we did probably have an increase
Yeah.
in appeals.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot easier for the taxpayer. However, the feedback that I got from the online appeals is that it was very simple, easy. I didn't get any reports that they didn't receive receipts, or I had no complaints about it. So
Okay.
I think
Well,
minor changes, but that's it.
all right. No, I just think anything we can do to make it easier to communicate, and I know you want to get information back to make sure your records are accurate, so that's good.
Yes, and of course, the goal is to always improve, and so we're already putting a list together for 2021 and how we can better help people that possibly were misinformed. So we are more than happy to put information together for the taxpayers.
Okay.
So
Oh,
happy to talk to who all we talk to, because they're the most important.
okay, thank you. Anything, Grant?
No, I think it's a busy time.
But preparing for County Board of Equalization hearings this summer, so
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Yeah, so, speaking of that, so I guess I think you had to report to us by the this had to be delivered by the 15th of this month, is,
That's correct.
okay. So we've got that, and then we'll,
There's other components of the report that you have questions about, you can come and see me later. So,
okay. Alrighty, I guess we will close as the Board of Equalization at this point. And our next scheduled meeting as the Board of Equalization is the 5th of August to consider the recommendations from the hearing officer, is my understanding, so. Alrighty, thank you very much, Susan. Okay, we will, I guess we've closed the Board of Equalization. We'll reopen as the Board of County Commissioners. Do we need another roll call, or, okay. Yeah, Amanda, if you could call that. Here. Here.
Here.
Alrighty. So, first item we got is approval of the agenda. I'd accept.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Next item we got is consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, elected officials, staff department reports. I'm gonna turn it to Christine first. She has an introduction, and then the fair royalty is here, so.
Thank you, Commissioners. Christine Stanton, Director of Community Development Services. Want to introduce our new land use planner, Greg, and let him talk for a minute, tell us a little bit about himself. Today's his third day.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm Greg. I'm a landscape architect, and I came from the Methodist Church previously. Worked the last 6 years to design, build, and implement a community farm and worship center. It's been a really exciting project, and I'm excited to be here.
Alrighty.
Guys.
Well, welcome. Yeah, I think, so, a director and 2 planners, we haven't seen that since 2014, 15, I think. It's been a while, so,
I don't know if you want me to go ahead, because I had a couple other,
yeah, please.
I see we've got one further on the agenda, but I also wanted to mention, I don't know if we have anyone here today who wants to talk. I've had some complaints come in last week, this week, with the Quail Run, Silver Creek properties. So there may be some individuals here to speak about that. Staff is looking into the SUR review process. Does state the public hearing process is required, doesn't really specify for the SUR review what that entails. As far as application, I'm assuming the same as a normal
Okay,
public hearing item, which is 14 days in advance.
okay,
So we may be moving forward with that soon. The day after I was looking at that, I also received an email from one of the Quail Run representatives saying they're hoping to have their application in Monday.
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, if we don't see an actual application made, we probably do need to initiate a review. We've got 2 different businesses operating under potentially the same SUR or portions of it, so. Alrighty. Oh, and just since we also have folks here, my understanding is the Watts rezone that was scheduled at 1 will be continued.
Yes, we have not received approval from the state on the water yet.
Okay.
That is to be continued to August 14th.
Okay, and the second item is going as scheduled.
Good to go forward.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, fair royalty. Welcome. Oh, actually, yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm
Morning.
Mary Louise Jacobson, the Albert County Fair Coordinator for the royalty, which are with me. Come stand by me. Stand by me. We would like to thank you for letting us be here this morning. We have been very, very busy. The girls been out promoting Albert County Fair and the county, of course, which is what I like them to do. And they're very good at it, smiling all the time. Anyway, we are going to be this Saturday in Albert at the Albert Day Festival Parade. And we'd like to see people come to watch us. I'm not sure how long the parade will be. It's usually pretty short. But the
It's as big
girls,
as Albert.
yeah. The girls are going to be on horseback, and they'll be at the end of the parade, and they'll be carrying the American and Colorado flags. And then we've been to Estes Park yesterday, which was a great day. Oh man, it was beautiful up there.
Yeah.
And we have been really doing all kinds of things, but the reason we're here this morning is to talk about the county fair that's upon us. So, this is my queen, Kira Dodd, and Princess Josie Thomas.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, like Mary Louise said, my name is Kira Dowd, and I am your 2019 Elbert County Fair Queen. And I'd like to personally invite you all to our Elbert County Fair, starting July 28th and going through August 4th. On July 28th, which is a Sunday, there will be a fashion show as well as a horse show. And throughout the week, my bad, Saturday, the 27th, my bad, Sunday will be the horse show. And then throughout the week, there will be a lamb show, a pig show, beef and dairy shows, and many other things like a goat show. And also throughout the week, there will be kids' activities such as a corn pit and bouncy houses and a petting zoo. So we look forward to seeing you all there, and thank you for having us today.
Well, thank you.
As Mary Louise said, my name is Josie Thomas, and I am the 2019 Albert County Fair Princess. It would be wonderful to see all of you at the 85th Annual Albert County Fair. We do have the Big Time Bucking Horse Futurity, which brings in a lot of money for the county, for the fair. We also have the freestyle reining competition, family fun rodeo, ranch rodeo, all sorts of things like that. So it would be awesome to see all of you there, and it was good to meet you all today. Excuse me.
Oh, no, it's good to have you here. I know last year there was a little bit of illness rolling through, so we actually didn't get to meet in this event, but I know you guys wanted to take a picture, or, yeah. Well,
Yeah, my name's Rick. Let's do a photo op.
okay.
Ladies, come over here. We're gonna get all front flags. Yeah.
Alrighty. Sam, did we have anything else, or?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, alrighty. Sherry, anything? Nope. Yeah. Tim, did you have anything you wanted to? Okay, thanks. Alrighty, moving on. Citizen comments. This is a time for citizens to raise any issues that aren't going to be addressed on today's agenda. If there's going to be something that's on the agenda, please hold your comments till that point. I'll open this up for public comment at this time. Susan?
You ready, Amanda? Okay, Dallas. I have 5 comments I'd like to make today. My name is Susan Schick, 4122 Down West Ride, Elizabeth. so I'll talk fast. Number one, following the contractor presentation of the 2018 Elbert County financial audit, I commended the staff and board for continuing to improve on the content and timely presentation of the audit, following 4 years of late audits that caused the state to withhold tax revenues from the county. A few days later, however, I came across the auditor's note to the financial statement, specifically note number 13, which is titled Impact Fee Abatement. The statement roughly outlines an agreement that the county will remit or pay back all Elbert County fees to the Independence developer for his cost to improve County Road 158. I submitted an ORR for this agreement and learned that it was not any new agreement reached in 2018 as I had wrongly assumed, but it is in fact the agreement contained in the Subdivision Improvements Agreement, or the SIA. The Independence SIA was not available to the public for review ahead of the public hearings, which occurred on September 5th, 6th, and 7th of 2017. The commissioners by vote closed public comment at the end of the meeting on September 5th, at which time only the special district service plans were covered. The SIA was mentioned at the September 6th meeting, but no public comment was allowed. The SIA was still being negotiated. Two of the sitting commissioners here today stated on September 5th that the developer, quote, will be paying his way through impact fees. What a way to fool the public. Not quite a lie, because the SIA does say that we will retain 3% of those collected fees. I am asking this board to modify the SIA to remit 0% of the collected fees. If I have done my math correctly, the county should be collecting and retaining all of the $4.576 million in impact and traffic analysis zone fees, not just the 3% crumb totaling $137,280. My concern as a taxpayer is putting county finances on a continually positive path by collecting and retaining developer impact fees, by not subsidizing PIDs with 26-year interest-free loans that require budget appropriations from other county funds, as was done with Sun Country Meadows, and by not passing deficit budgets that require expenses to be paid from expected year-end fund balances. These unsound financial decisions ultimately land on the backs of citizens through unjustified property tax increases. Truly, make the developers pay their way, fix the SIA with independence. Number two, I also request that county policy and procedures be written to ensure that all future major developments require all documentation be made available to the public at least 2 weeks before the Planning Commission hearing and the BoCC hearing. Number three, I also request for the third time that the Independent Special District Service Plans be modified now to ensure that statutory obligations regarding major modifications to those plans are recognized as such. The language in those plans put the county at legal risk, in my opinion, by denying any BoCC-approved changes to be a material modification. Number four, I would like to know if the board is aware
That's your
of any
time, ma'am.
glitches with the Independence
Ma'am.
development that has caused, I really need to finish this,
Okay.
has caused a work stoppage. There are rumors in that regard that are floating about. Number five, following your last BoCC meeting, I was dismayed to learn that the person giving the invocation, Mr. Kevin Swanson, is on record stating that there is biblical justification for executing our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, and also those who support them, including Girl Scout leaders. If the county has a policy regarding who is qualified to give the invocation, I would like to see it revised to ensure this type of individual is never allowed to give the invocation in a taxpayer-funded government building. Additionally, if the invocation is not considered part of the official BoCC meeting, please remove it from the official BoCC meeting agenda. Thank you, and I would like these minutes published as part of the official record today. Thank you.
Alrighty. Do we have any other public comment? Yes, sorry.
Rick Brown, Kiowa. I'd like to second, I'm here to address the issue of the invocation at the last meeting as well. I want to second Susan's comments. There's nothing inappropriate about having clergy in to provide an invocation at the beginning of a meeting. But this particular individual was a homophobic bigot. And you know, you represent the entire county. There are LGBT people in this county. There are LGBT kids in the schools in this county. And the message this sends is that you don't value these people. That may not have been your intent, but that is indeed the message. You know, you need to think, you don't have an obligation to let in every clergy person who asks to appear before you. You do have an obligation to have in a variety of denominations. Your practice has been to bring in a rotating group of fundamentalist pastors. Those people can certainly appear, but I haven't seen anyone from mainline churches, I haven't seen any rabbis, I haven't seen any imams, and if you continue that practice, it could cause a problem for you. So I'd ask you to reevaluate the way you're making these decisions on who to have in. I'd also point out that I understand it's been said that this is not really part of the meeting. I mean, it's taking place when we're all here, staff is here, you're here, whether it's on the agenda or not, it's clearly part of the meeting. And again, it's not inappropriate to do it, but you need to do it a little differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Do we have any other public comment?
Marlene Groves, 33 300 Ridge Road. At the last commissioners meeting, I mentioned that our website did not have our monthly variance reports. I was told at that time that they were probably just moved. That information was incorrect. I didn't get any follow-up, so I followed up. I sent an email, and thank you, Chris, you did reply and say that Michelle would do it. I looked this morning, about 7 o'clock, so if you snuck them in between 7 and now, they're not there. At last meeting, I asked for clarification on who was responsible for updating our website, and I think I even looked over towards like Dallas and Jen, and I asked if it was IT, and the information I got back was that it was all the departments. It feels like a shell game of answering, and I'm asking today specifically for financial documents. Who's responsible? Is that the county manager? Is that the deputy county manager? Is that the finance manager? Is that the treasurer? Is that IT? Or is that a commissioner? And until you assign a responsible person or a responsible department, I'm not sure I can hold them accountable for getting this important information to the citizens. And I know at least 2 of you, when you ran for commissioner, you talked about transparency, you done a better job, but then we get to these little bugs and we're 6 months in and there are no 2019 reports and no one for me to go to and say, here's what's going to happen. So if you could answer that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. All right. Any other public comment? Okay. Yeah, just on the website variance reports, Sam and I have talked. We've been working internally on quarterly financials, which we think will address a little bit better than the monthly variance, and those will be posted. Monthly variance, I'm not sure if we've got a final whether those will continue to be posted, but certainly are readily available through an open records request. Yeah.
Commissioner, I think you're exactly right. We're in a process of changing the way that we provide those better information to the public. We can certainly post the missing ones from 18 if we wanted to. We've got 19s. What we'd like to do is go to this new quarterly report. The problem with the monthly variances is they change every month. I mean, they're at a static point in time, and we still haven't done all the journal entries yet for those. So the quarterly report should be a much more useful tool. We have kind of baited that first quarterly report for 19. Everybody's had a chance to look at it. We're going to we'll probably get that posted, and then we'll have one for June too. So our initial walk-in recommendation right at this moment is to stop doing the monthly variance reports, because they do change every single month, and go to the quarterlies. And I just want to finish vetting that with finance, and then I'll come to you guys with a recommendation to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I do think, just so there isn't a mistake, we'll still be looking at monthly variances. That's how we track but not necessarily posted, because they've become much more of a working document as issues are found. But thank you. A couple of comments on the invocations. I thank you for bringing those up. Honestly, we had established a policy to clarify how our invocations work several months back, beginning of the year. Essentially, we've sent invites to all established churches in the county for their pastors to speak, kind of on a first come, first serve, and then if not filled, to open to lay people. We can make an effort to reach out again. We don't really control who responds to our invites. I can say personally that there are plenty of people that step up to that podium that have said things outside this room that I find tremendously offensive, but it's still a public podium, and I know it's a fine line, but I don't believe it's the government's role to determine who's an appropriate representation of. If something was inappropriately said here, we would take that person aside, and if they went way over a line, would likely not be invited back again. But as for the invocation that was given, I didn't hear anything inappropriate. I went back and watched the tapes, and not familiar with the gentleman or what he may have said prior to, but our intent is not to disparage anybody in this county or make anybody in this county feel uncomfortable, but I do thank you for bringing that forward. As to the SIA and the rebate or retention of funds by independents for the purpose of doing off-site improvements, that is how development pays for itself. It's a very common practice for large developments to not pay a fee to the county and then have the county then contract to do the improvements, which is one way that development can pay for itself. But in this case, for the large developer that can actually manage those improvements, that's just a much more efficient process. When you have a small development, somebody breaking a 40 into 410s, those transportation impact fees don't amount to enough to tell that person they've got to go improve a little tiny stretch of road. Those are retained and used for projects in the surrounding areas over time. But the wording might have sounded like somehow we're giving that contractor a break, but the thought that we would collect impact fees and retain them just to have a fund balance doesn't improve the community. Allowing the developer to retain those impact fees and also have the requirement to actually do the improvements regardless of their cost will generally work out better for the county in the long run. 4.76 million for 158 does sound like a lot of money, but if you read through the entire SIA, they're initially responsible for turn lanes, eventually required for widening up to County Road 5 and potentially require repaving all the way to County Road 13. At the end of the day, I would posit that they will spend much more than $5 million on improvements to County Road 158. So what they're retaining wouldn't cover it. If we collected it, the county would be on the hook, and if we paid more than what we collected, then it's going to be a net loss to the taxpayer. So getting documents out sooner, I agree with. That's been our goal throughout. The service plans, I think we just have an ongoing disagreement. I know, Susan, you brought that up before several times over the last several years, and our attorney's interpretation of it is different than yours. I think the board is siding with our attorney. So, but I thank you for bringing up the comments. All right. Next item, we have one discussion item today, and that is on hemp regulation. Mike, if you want to lead it, or Christina. Really what we're looking at today is there's been a lot of lessons learned. The federal farm bill pretty much took hemp off any schedule of drugs, making it not only had been previously under a pilot program as a legal crop in the state of Colorado, now it's fully federally legal. The state had been issuing permits for folks to grow hemp throughout the state, with instructions to the folks receiving permits that they contact their local government, make sure they're following any rules. So about a year and a half ago, Sam got a call from somebody with a state permit asking what our rules were. At that point, we found out we'd already had 6 permits issued by the state within the county, and we had nothing in place ourselves to respond to that. So over pretty much the next year, there was quite a bit of research done. One of the first counties in the state to actually put something in place. The general concerns being it looks exactly like marijuana. I mean, the initial concern was, okay, it's a legal crop, we accept that. It's a fairly low water usage crop, essentially on par with folks that grow corn. But it looks like pot, so if people see it growing, there's going to be calls to the sheriff, there's going to be just disruption. So at least getting things fenced and marked so passersby know that this is recognized as a legal hemp product was kind of where we started. Set up a county fee schedule. As things have gotten rolling, we're starting to see a few issues that I think we need to address as we go forward. But I don't know if Christina, if you were leading this, but the general areas I know that have come up were, well, road use is always an issue in the county, but it's primarily tied to some folks that are bringing water in to irrigate, because most folks on small acreage don't have wells that allow irrigation. Specific zoning where it would be approved. And then I think on Mike's side, the timing of when it's about a 4-month growing cycle, if I understand. So that we issue an annual permit. At what point should we cut off permits for the following growing year? At what point should be a cutoff to receive a permit if you're going to grow that year? And then I think this has probably grown into about 50% of Mike's work. And did we set the fees appropriately to cover that expense? So with that, as a long introduction. Okay.
I had the traffic and road use, that some of the ones that are looking at trucking in water may need to do a master road use agreement with Public Works regarding improvements that might be needed depending on how much they're trucking and how heavy. That's something we'll have to look at. Water usage, state regulations there, how they're looking at the wells and what we need to document, and the zoning discussions that have happened in the last probably month or more, trying to figure out if there are districts that are not fully appropriate for this use. This is not a use that is actually in the zoning regulations. We had it adopted through resolution and have not incorporated it into the regulations separately yet. But with some of the learning and growing pains we're having with that, I think that will be in the next round of amendments after the one that we have currently that we're working on. And that'll give us some time to dig into these topic areas and research that a little bit more.
Okay.
If you had specific questions on things this year, applications that we've experienced, I'd have to turn that over to Mike. So I did ask him to be here this morning for that discussion.
Okay. Do you have any specifics?
No, the only thing that we're going through a learning curve, and
You might want to use the mic.
we're going through a learning curve that there's issues that we hadn't anticipated, but I think that, and I'm going to defer to Christina here, but there's a few modifications in our regulations that you're putting together to recognize the things that we hadn't anticipated.
In this round of amendments that just went to planning commission last night, will be before you on the 24th, we only changed one thing in relation to this, and that was removing the word non from non-commercial in the still researching and trying to fully get our arms around the issues. And again, they are mostly driven by road usage and water, which will impact what is the appropriate district.
Okay. Yeah, and I would ask you to work with Rory and Road and Bridge on the road impact piece, because generally our road use agreements are inspection before construction, inspection after, return to the original condition. For a small property, it might be better to have an estimated cost for, if there's 2 more grader passes during that 4-month period, or something that's reasonably applicable as a specific fee, versus I think the cost of doing 2 inspections and corrections might wind up costing us more in the long run than the work that would be done. And the other I'd ask you to look at is, and maybe talk to some other counties, is since they're annual permits, reclamation afterwards. If somebody's not going to continue to grow, if somebody has a failed crop, and I think there's a whole bunch of people that are jumping on this like it's going to be the next gold rush, and if it doesn't work out, then we have weed going to weed. We don't need additional noxious weed, cannabis spreading through the county as well. So if there's something that can be done in the permitting process or in the closeout of a permit process to make sure that the ground is cleared, if not reseeded, if it's not going to be reused, I think that would be good. And then, so I guess, Mike, if you could, just how many permits do we have active right now?
So we currently have 21 approved permits, and we have 8 pending
Okay.
for this year.
I was going to say, are the 8 that are pending going to have even time to, I mean, the snow could come tomorrow around here, so.
I think really they should have gotten their crop in by about the beginning of July. Obviously, if you're in a greenhouse, you can get a little more time out of it, but it won't go through the year. So some of them aren't going to make it this year.
What is a growing season for him?
It's usually about 4 months, but it's dependent on if Colorado weather can kind of be tricky. So if you get a crop in early enough, you may get 2 crops through the year. If it's an outdoor grow, if it's an indoor grow like a greenhouse, then you can get more time out of it. But the state is still recognizing, as far as water rights go, a greenhouse grow has a specific amount of time where they're allowed to grow. And during the winter months, they're not technically allowed to grow unless they're getting their water use from trucked water.
Okay, and then on the truck water, my understanding was, you have the authority to check receipts to ensure that deliveries are actually being made.
Correct. The Groundwater Commission is basically asking counties to review the contracts and check receipts and get with them as far as what we find. They've also added in a requirement now that you have to put a meter essentially on your cistern so that you can show that you received this amount of gallons and you've used this amount, and that you're not supplementing with a well to fill that cistern.
And that's on the discharge of the
Correct.
system.
Alrighty.
I just have out of the 21 are approved, is that 21 approved by the county
Correct.
and the other 8? But do we know, are there any other ones that have been approved by the state that we don't know of yet?
So I try to track that on a regular basis. I get on there about twice a month because the state just doesn't give that information out. You have to go to their website and you have to check who's been approved for your county. They tell the grower that they have to get with the county, but they don't track any of that. So there's some disconnect between counties and states in that the state is only going to do a certain amount of
Testing.
enforcement and inspection and all those types of things. And the counties are kind of have to, if they want to protect their own things, they have to watch that. So what I do is I get online, I check to see who's approved within Elbert County. If it's somebody that hasn't submitted a permit, I could try to contact them. and find out what their intent is, if they plan on growing in Elbert County or not. Also, if somebody applies through the state, they can apply with an address in Aurora, even though their intent is to grow in Elbert County. So the address that I see, even though it shows for Elbert County, is going to be an Aurora address. So I have no way of knowing, without contacting them, where they intend to grow in Elbert County. And it's the same for every county.
Yeah.
What's the typical size of one of these?
A grow?
Yeah.
The largest we have right now is 312 acres. The smallest we have is 4 greenhouses that are, and I don't know the square footage, 5,000 square feet, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, we've definitely entered strange territory in the meetings that we've had at CCI. I guess in counties where there is both marijuana and hemp production, the state is working to mask the actual locations, because supposedly there's little border wars going on where hemp producers will, the marijuana producers are concerned that hemp pollen will get into their crop and lessen its potency. Hemp producers are concerned that there'll be cross-pollination and raise the THC level and destroy their crops. So like I said, it's an odd thing when they won't tell you what's going on in your own county, what they're approving or where. And then in terms of, what the county has in place, if you're growing hemp without a county permit, it's just considered cannabis, and it falls under the sheriff to deal with if they don't make themselves right very quickly. Mike has the authority to test, and it's at their cost. So any testing we do is at their cost. There's no processing of oils or anything within the county. Part of their permit with us is they have to show a contract of where this is going to be taken outside the county. And then I guess the last odd one with the Department of Agriculture is destruction. If things go over the limit to become marijuana, they allowed burning, something we don't want to see in our county because we have enough fire risk. You could put it in a landfill and cover it with diesel, which might be great for destroying it as a plant to be used, but environmentally is ridiculous. And then the more we press, eventually, as we were pressing them, the answer was, well, when it becomes marijuana, it's a criminal thing, not an agriculture thing, so we don't deal with it. And that kind of left, yeah, well, like I said, it's a viable agricultural crop. It's been used for, hemp rope and paper forever. But just getting our arms around it, and like I said, I think it's kind of looked at as the gold rush thing. I think you're bearing the brunt of it now, but we just want to make sure we don't set something up in the county that does get out of control, yet still allow people to grow what's a legal crop. So I would just look forward to long before we get to the end of the year and kind of into the next permitting cycle, that if we're going to make changes, that we get those.
And they require annual permits, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
And we're also probably going to set a limit to say that you have to have your permit submitted by the end of January. That way we're not dealing with people trying to get a permit in July when we know they realistically can't grow, at least outdoor, after that. So.
And I was joking with our sheriff, and I asked him about hemp, and he says, well, that's the only thing that grows here. People that they bust for marijuana, they say, well, it's just hemp, you can't bother us.
Correct. Yeah. That's what they're trying to disguise it as.
Yeah. All right.
Commissioners, you brought up a lot of good information, and you're exactly right. I do want to mention that the state plan for industrial hemp didn't really fit Elbert County, and mostly dry land out here, except for some irrigated stuff on bigger properties. And so we thought our water was going to be that. We hadn't thought about trucking in water, but there's such value in this crop that we're not only seeing that, but we're also seeing out-of-state people coming in and contracting out land, lots, or buying lots to do industrial hemp. So that's another big piece of it. We talked to the state Department of Agriculture director for hemp and they have no local government or law enforcement on their advisory council. It's all hemp growers. So there's a little, I don't want to say bias, but they're getting one side of the information, and that's why we actually went out and talked to other counties. We talked to other law enforcement agencies to try to come up with something that would work for the county, and knowing that we are pro-agriculture and a right to farm community. The biggest concern that was a red flag was that when we had a listening session with some of the hemp growers, our plan is to burn the crop in the field if it tests too high. And our basic response was, no, not in this county, you won't. Fire is one of our biggest dangers, and the fire chiefs, and we worked with them too to make sure that that not only these folks that are coming in to grow know that they have to have a permit for open burn from the local fire district, but that's not an acceptable destruction method in this county. They need to think of something else. With the law enforcement side, we have unfettered access to their fields anytime we want. We can test anytime we want. We heard from other law enforcement agencies that it was a cover for marijuana, that they plant hemp on the outside and marijuana on the inside. So we did our best to come up with really good regulations. We are pretty strict on that versus the rest of the state, but I think we're going to be leaders on what we want as far as from the local government perspective. And absolutely, we're going to make some changes to that, get it incorporated, and do a better job next year.
Okay, thanks. Any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to action items. First item up is approval of the June 26, 2019 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the June 26, 2019 minutes as written and dispense with the reading of those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes and with the suspension of the reading. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. The next item we have is resolution to appoint a referee for the Board of Equalization. Dallas?
Morning, Commissioners. Dallas Schroeder, County Clerk. This resolution is formalizing appointment of Mr. Robert Stamp as the hearing officer. I have not met him personally. We've certainly been in contact on the phone and have sent many emails back and forth. Seems like a good guy. Through my colleagues, through the Clerks Association, I know that he's worked in Douglas, Eagle, and Adams County before doing the exact same thing. And particularly the people in Eagle County speak highly of him. He's professional and knows what he's doing. This isn't his first rodeo, even though it's ours. And so this is just formalizing his appointment. We'll be starting these hearings next Wednesday, the 17th.
Okay, and as a professional services contract, that's well within the county managers when the contract's set. Okay. Any questions or comments?
No, I think this is an excellent thing to initiate. Getting people that have expertise in this area to help us should be well received by the public.
Yeah, I think it just takes some of the, when you've got people and stuff, takes some of the the personalization or whatever you want out of the process, and hopefully makes it more standard than what I've seen in the past.
Okay. Got any public comment on this before we take it to motion? Okay, we have a comment. I'd accept a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 19 to be determined, a resolution appointing referees for the 2019 County Board of Equalization.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, next up, IGA template between the county clerk and special districts. Dallas. Yep.
This is a repeat of what we've been doing the last couple of years, where we can submit the IGA that we do with special districts when they coordinate with us in an election. The county attorney has looked this over. It's good to go. It has all the appropriate safeguards for us and the special districts, outlines exactly what each role and responsibility is, so there's no confusion. And basically what we're asking for is approve the template, and then we can, and for me to enter into the IGA with the various
sounds good. Anything?
No,
Okay. Any public comment on this item? Okay, I'd accept a motion to approve the IGA template as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the IGA template between county clerk and special districts as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Hey, Dallas, while you're up there, that potential special election in Teller County, or was it Teller?
Yeah.
Water.
Minnesota County.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still going forward with that.
Okay.
We've been in constant contact with their district attorney and their district manager, and we're starting to, we've gotten one person that has volunteered to be a successor candidate. Question why we want to do that. We're a small district that's fighting, but we got one, and I will be making a trip next Wednesday evening up to their board meeting to meet those folks and outline what the rest of our procedures will be for this recall election that we're administrating.
Okay. Well, and they're covering costs to the county on that.
Costs are being covered by that special group, and staff time, expenses, travel, the whole nine yards.
Okay.
Will not be out anyway.
All right. Probably doesn't feel like it, but I think it's kind of indication of what you and your staff, or how you're considered and how you run elections in this state, that you're asked to do that well out of outside of our own county. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and the staff has done a great job going from when I first got here from us needing help to where now we're going to provide help, and I'm glad we're able to do that.
That's a tremendous arc. Thanks. Okay, the next two items we have are public hearings for special event liquor licenses, and I guess, Amanda, you're the presentor, so I'd accept a motion to open public hearing to consider a special event permit for the High Test Motor Show.
I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing for consideration of a special event liquor permit for Cowboy Up in Kiowa Rodeo at the High Test Motor Show.
Second.
All righty, we have a motion and a second to open public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Amanda, floor is yours.
I received a application for consideration of a special event liquor permit for Cowboy Up in Kiowa Rodeo for the High Test Motor Show. The event will be on August 10th from 10 a.m. until 11 p.m. This is a reoccurring event, and no concerns were raised from the last event that they had. All fees, forms have been completed and paid in full, and at this time, staff has no concerns. And staff recommends approval of the special event liquor permit for Cowboy Up and Kiowa Rodeo for the High Test Motor Show.
Okay, thanks. Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Anything from?
No.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the event.
Mr.
permit.
Chairman, I move that we approve the special event liquor permit for Cowboy Up in Kiowa Rodeo High Test Motor Show.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the liquor permit for Cowboy Up in Kiowa Rodeo High Test Motor Show. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Take a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing on the special event liquor permit.
Okay. Second?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. All right, next item is another public hearing. Take a motion to open public hearing for consideration for liquor permit for the Celtic Festival.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open public hearing for the consideration of a special event liquor permit for the Elizabeth Celtic Festival Association.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second to open public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. Amanda?
We received an application from the Elizabeth Celtic Festival Association for the Celtic Festival on July 20th and 21st.
Do we have any, I'll open it for public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Hey, Tim, for the Celtic Festival, I know last year you had at least one posse member that was wearing, he was wearing a kilt. I don't know if that's part of their standard uniform or. No. No, okay. I know you were tracking, so thanks. So, close public comment. At this point, I'd accept a motion to approve the liquor permit as presented.
I'll make a motion, we approve the special event liquor permit for Elizabeth Celtic Festival Association.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the permit. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I'll take a motion to close public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second to close public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. I think I heard an aye. Okay, motion carries. Next item we've got is board planning. Our next meeting is the 26th? 4th. Okay, 24th. Alrighty. Obviously minutes for this meeting. We had interviews for potential vendors for the facilities plan, if we could get an update on that. And I think we got a more substantial IT study presentation planned. Is it August? Okay. Cool. And then I understand we've received nominations for the library board. I think like last time we'll probably ask to just sit down and have a cup of coffee with the nominees that we haven't met before, and then we'll get that scheduled. So, do you guys have anything that you want specifically?
No, maybe a facilities update.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
I just want to put out there as a reminder that the town halls are coming up
Oh, yes.
on July 17th and 18th.
Okay, thank you.
And do you know where they're going to be?
Elbert and Agate, I believe.
Elbert and Agate. Wednesday night will be Elbert, I believe, and then Mercantile, and then Thursday will be Agate and the school.
All righty.
And we'll get those meetings noticed.
Okay, thank you. All righty. That gets a start anyway. So at 1 p.m. we'll be meeting to continue the Watts rezone and then consider the Schweitzerman rezone. So at this point we are in recess until 1 p.m. today. Thanks.